This week, Kentucky will host the 142nd running of the Kentucky Derby, the nation's oldest and greatest sporting event and the world's most famous horse race. Kentucky will welcome guests from all over the globe to enjoy the fastest 2 minutes of sports and Kentucky's renowned Southern hospitality. It is an amazing event that puts Kentucky at the center of the world stage. Visitors have planned their trip for months. Hotels and restaurants are booked, and guests alike, along with locals, are ready for another great Derby weekend. But, as with every major sporting event, some that will be in our community are not here to celebrate. They are here because they have no choice. The grim fact is that large sporting events like the Derby draw not only revelers, but also individuals who have enslaved children and adults to exploit them for sex and labor. These victims of human trafficking are coerced into submission through numerous immoral means, including drug dependence, violence, threats, and manipulation. As your Attorney General, I am absolutely dedicated to prosecuting and preventing child abuse, and let there be no doubt, human trafficking is one of the worst forms of child abuse imaginable. Victims carry those scars their entire life. That's why my office is fully committed to partnering with both local law enforcement as well as advocacy groups like you see here today to identify and intervene and help human trafficking victims. But we cannot do it without the help of the public. I ask that our local businesses and citizens be on the lookout during this Derby for the signs of human trafficking and be ready to report and intervene. Look for children and adults who might be fearful of strangers, that don't know exactly where they are, that have inconsistencies in their story, and that may be carrying many prepaid cards but no identification documents. Trafficking victims may also have physical indicators that tip you off, including broken bones, scars, bruises, and folks, even branding. And listen to your intuition. If you feel like something is off, like something is wrong, make sure to report it. Because if someone is in trouble, that intuition, that sneaking suspicion might be the only thing that stands in the way of their continued slavery. To report suspected trafficking, call 877-KY-SAFE-1 if you believe a child or an adult is in immediate danger. If someone is looking for help, they can call or text the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 for immediate assistance. Interpreters are available for those that cannot speak English. Human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. And in Kentucky, reports to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services of human trafficking have grown 50% year over year over year. Sadly, those harmed are often those already at risk: children in foster care, runaways, and children and adults with disabilities. It's the worst kind of abuse, especially for children. Children who have been exploited will need help the rest of their lives once pulled out. And I hope the public knows that their Attorney General's office is focused on addressing human trafficking. We've created a new division, the Child Abuse and Exploitation Division, headed by Allison Cox Taylor, that is absolutely focused on addressing this issue. Our cybercrimes investigators are scouring the internet to identify human trafficking and assist. In fact, in Jefferson County, we recently assisted on 2 arrests. We're currently training numerous professionals, the types that you would expect, like prosecutors and law enforcement, but also others, folks in the hotel industry, fire inspectors, EMS, so that they can recognize the signs when they enter a building or a house and do something about it. And finally, we are working to raise awareness like we're doing here today, but that we will continue to do all across the Commonwealth, day in and day out. Trafficking will continue to rise if concerned citizens do not speak up. This is our community. We cannot and should not tolerate this type of criminal activity, and it's up to us to make that phone call to make it stop. It's up to us to make sure that our international event that is the Kentucky Derby is the way that we want it to be, happy for all and free of human trafficking. I urge everyone to do their part, their civil duty, and stand up for those that cannot stand up for themselves. The Kentucky Derby is a time for celebration of our heritage and our hospitality. Let's work together to ensure the first Saturday in May brings out the very best of our community. Joining us in this fight against human trafficking is Jamie Wilson, Human Trafficking Case Manager with Catholic Charities of Louisville. Jamie? Jamie?
Good morning. Thank you, Attorney General Beshear, and team for being such strong victim advocates. I am a case manager with Catholic Charities of Louisville Human Trafficking Program, and our program is federally funded to provide direct services to victims of both labor and sex trafficking. These services include, but are not limited to, housing, food, trauma therapy, immigration services. We serve men, women, and children, domestic and foreign national clients. Our clients come from all over the world. These services are so important to not only helping them rebuild their lives, but regaining their independence and healing. What we can do as a community is come together doing large events like the Kentucky Derby and spreading awareness to ensure that these services are available to those identified as human trafficking victims, as well as letting people know that this is just not going to be tolerated in Kentucky. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Also joining us today is Free to Hope, a local nonprofit that is training everyday citizens to recognize the signs of human trafficking. Executive Director Amy Leanertz is here with us to talk about Free to Hope's effort to combat human trafficking during Derby. I think they engaged in a couple activities just this last weekend. Amy, we greatly appreciate you being here and all the work you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, my name is Amy Leanertz. I have Free to Hope 3 years. We basically want to be able to train everyday citizens to recognize and respond to victims of human trafficking. We also work to expose the business of human trafficking in a particular area. We work with an independent researcher, and we're able to map out where the highest concentrations of human trafficking and prostitution would be in an area, and then we have targeted outreaches to that area. We just had a large event on Saturday. It was called Not in My City. We put placards in business windows. We had probably 80, 90 volunteers that came out to do that. We've gotten about a third of our intel back, and we've been in every area of the city and southern Indiana. This is one of the biggest times of the year that human trafficking happens here in our community, so we wanted to make sure that we get that information out during this week of Derby so that people going in businesses would recognize that it's going on here, so that people coming from out of town might recognize and might think again about what they're doing, and just also so people could keep their own kids safe. That's part of what we do. We have some other programs too, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Amy. We are here today to make sure that Kentucky citizens are on the lookout for human trafficking during Derby. But let there be no misunderstanding. Both the groups that are here today as well as the Attorney General's office are going to work on this problem day in and day out, because human trafficking occurs in every single community across Kentucky, whether it's rural or urban. And the instances that we see are heartbreaking. A foster parent selling their foster child's body for furniture. People dressing their kids up in absolutely inappropriate clothes outside a movie theater and then trying to sell their bodies. You know, but for the grace of God, folks, these could be any of our children. And it's our job as a community to work every single day to eradicate the evil that is human trafficking. So thank you all, and we'll take any questions.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
General, what specifically are you planning on like implementing to, like working with LMPD or Kentucky State Police? Like what are some of the things specifically that you're putting into effect to make sure
Right.
all this doesn't happen?
Well, coming up to Derby and beyond, our cybercrimes unit, which works through the internet, thus far, since January 4th, I believe we've removed 19 child sex predators from the street. We are on pace to triple, if not more than triple, the number of child sex predators that we remove. Certainly in and around Derby, those folks are very focused on human trafficking, which fits directly in that core mission of preventing and prosecuting child abuse. We're here today, and we will be in other places to raise awareness, to make sure that people know the signs and can report. We will be ready, along with LMPD and other law enforcement, to respond to issues that we've seen. Moving into the future, we're going to be pushing additional legislation. So, for instance, Kentucky has some of the best laws on human trafficking that treat these victims as actual victims. Because a lot of these girls, especially, may get picked up between 12 and 14 and not pulled out of this criminal activity until they're 18 or 19. Those folks are victims. They are not prostitutes. And we have to make sure that they are treated like the abused children that they've been and get the help they need. What we don't have is enough law enforcement and others focused on this problem. You know, I mentioned earlier that only 10% of reports to the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services result in a criminal investigation. That's why, with Catholic Charities and other help, we pushed a bill this session to give the Attorney General's office concurrent jurisdiction in the prosecution of human trafficking. That passed the House with every Democratic and Republican vote. It did not get called in the Senate, but we're not going to stop there, and we're not going to let that stop us. We can do a lot working in tandem with communities to make sure that both the perpetrators pay, but also that we get the victims the help they deserve. You know, for too long, in our approach on crime, we have been focused almost solely on those perpetrators. But those victims need our help. And that's why I'm proud to say on our leadership team in the Attorney General's office, we have four people on that leadership team that have run that Office of Victims Advocacy. So we are excited about our approach and how we can truly help people.
Do you have any statistics of how much, how many people are human trafficked during Derby Week?
Come on up, baby.
It would be really hard to come up with a number on that. What we do know, though, is if you look at certain ads where people are sold, bought and sold, they'll go up 3 times the amount that normally is in the city. Now, there's a lot of different resources people can go to, but that's one that just kind of proves that there's probably 3 times as much.
And if I may, and I think it is a conservative estimate to say the victims that will be brought into Kentucky number in the hundreds, if not more. And they'll be brought from all over the country. The instances of human trafficking that you read about where someone drives a victim, oftentimes a disabled victim, around the country and prostitute them to people, it's heartbreaking. And that's what you see during Derby. They see, these criminals see an opportunity with just the massive number of people that come in. And any victim that we can save during Derby is likely a victim that has been, in that system, in that criminal activity for a period of time. So everybody that we can pull out is somebody that needs us so badly.
Jimmy, how many of the kids you work with, how do they escape or leave this industry? How do they get out if they are lucky enough to get out?
So typically, any child victims that we work with are referred to us by the Department of Community-Based Services, or CPS. But sometimes we encounter victims through word of mouth, or a friend or family member that's just concerned, or even that child may come to us. But whenever a child is identified, CPS has to be involved, and we usually work in concert with them to get these children the services that they need.
And our future goal is to make sure that everyone in the community is on the lookout so that these referrals can come from schools, from other family members, from friends, from people who see something wrong at that movie theater, from all different sources, from that fire inspector that may be the first person to enter a building in an emergency. In the end, this is something that we can truly address and make a significant impact if we know the signs to look for. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it.